Welcome.
to Dark Narratives. I'm Isabella.
And I'm Alexandria.
I feel like if I went snowboarding, I mean, I guess it's all what you make it, but I feel like if I went snowboarding now, I would not be able to move for like 5 days.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I used to snowboard a lot.
I know you did. Maybe that's why, because you know how to do it. For me, if I were to go and get on a board, my board that has been used like once, I'd be falling so much. And so I would be dead for the next 5 days. But I guess if you actually know how to, like, I am so bad that I honestly have had so many run-ins snowboarding of getting hurt. Like, I've been hit in the head with a chairlift countless times. Like, seriously.
With the
Like, because I just can't get off of them properly, and then I fall, and then I can't get my ass up because I'm like so unstable, and it just smokes my head every single time.
This is actually, I have to tell you this because this guy was a total piece of shit. We went to the summit, and
which is the top, right?
Yeah, the very top. And then we went into this little lodge and we were chilling. We got like ourselves a drink. And we heard this girl screaming coming off the chairlift. And we were like, oh, okay, like calm down. And we looked up and she actually fucked her leg up super bad. She twisted her knee. She was on skis. So, you know, when you're on, well, I guess you could do it on a snowboard too. But anyway, her ski went one way, her leg went the other. And they had shut the chairlift down and they had a gurney out there. They had multiple first aid people. They were on top of it. There was a guy, an adult male, on the chairlift, just the chair kind of right behind them, with his kids screaming at the workers, saying,
about what?
Move the patient, because they had to stop the chairlift, and this guy was pissed, and he's like, move the patient, I paid this amount of money to be here and I should be able to ski, move the patient. And it was like, holy fuck, I am not kidding you, like, dad of the fucking year. I wish I knew who he was, because to put him on blast would have been epic, because he was being a complete piece of shit.
Who cares about them shutting the chairlift off? I don't understand. This chick literally...
She was in a lot of pain. She was screaming. Anyway, it was entertaining to say the least.
No,
okay, here.
Terrible.
I sent me a video here to watch. Okay, let me watch it here.
So we're going to talk about Sheryl Sheppard and Michael. His name's Michael, but I'm going to refer to him as Mike. So Mike Lavoie.
Okay.
So as the ball is dropping on New Year's Eve and the calendar changes to 1998, Mike is being interviewed by the media at a party that him and his girlfriend are attending. They're kind of just asking him, like, how's his night going? Just like, you know, broadcasting the event because it was a live New Year's Eve event. Mike ends up, he's got a drink in his hand, and he thinks that this is the best time to do something drastic. So he calls his girlfriend over, Sheryl, this blonde, beautiful girl, comes over to Mike, and Mike says, I got a question for you. And he decides to propose to Sheryl on live TV.
Worst idea ever.
Right? I think I would cry.
Like, obviously she has to say yes.
Exactly. And she does accept it, and they kiss and they hug. And I don't know, this is totally not related at all. But the way that he kissed her, I'm like, Jesus, like it's almost like he like shoved his teeth into her face.
Ew.
I was like, oh, I don't like that. No. But anyways, yeah, she accepts it.
At least he didn't stick his tongue out or something and lick her.
Oh, like right in there on TV. Ugh.
Yuck.
But yeah, so she does accept the proposal on TV, and they hug and they kiss, and it's obvious they've been like having drinks that night and just enjoying New Year's Eve. So after all those festivities, the following day, Sheryl, she picks up the phone and she calls her mom because her mom was actually away for Christmas and New Year's in New Brunswick visiting some family and friends. So she wasn't there for the proposal or anything like that. So Sheryl calls her mom and she just wants to confirm plans for when her mom returns. Sheryl was going to be the one to pick her up from the airport when she arrives. And I realized I actually didn't say in the beginning, but this is in Ontario. So
Okay.
we've
So
got
we're
a
in
Canadian
Canada.
case here. Yeah. Okay. So January 4th comes when Cheryl's mom was coming back from New Brunswick, and her mom, Odette, is waiting at the airport and she's waiting for Sheryl to come like they had previously talked about, but Sheryl never shows up to pick her mom up from the airport.
Oh no.
And her mom was thinking, okay, maybe there's a possibility she's a grown adult. Maybe there's a possibility that she just got hung up with something. She just couldn't make it. And we're talking about 1998 here, so it's not like you can just send a
Just
quick
text
text.
someone.
Yeah,
Isn't that
or
it's so wild how people, even when we're in such bad situations where it's almost obvious to a bystander, but when you're in those situations, you just keep like you make up stories. Do you know what I mean?
yes, yeah, just trying to think of anything else that could happen
Yeah, anything
or be
other
the
than
scenario.
worst case scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. Like even if you sometimes like you'll get a thought and you're like, no, that's crazy, and you'll like shake
That's
it
so
out of
crazy.
your head.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like unfathomable scenarios. Yeah. Well, I think maybe this is what Odette might have been feeling at the time because she did feel like it was weird that Sheryl didn't show up to pick her up after they literally just talked about it.
Yeah, why
But
wouldn't she?
okay. Exactly. So again, though, she's like, she's a grown adult. Maybe she got tied up with something and she just couldn't make it. It's not really easy ways to get a hold of people at that time, especially when you just got off the plane. So
Yeah.
Odette makes her way home. She finds a way home herself. And actually, Sheryl, Odette, and Mike, they lived together in the same apartment. And that was in Stony Creek, Ontario.
Okay.
So Odette makes her way home, hoping that Sheryl is there, or maybe will get there a little bit later and she can talk to her about what happened.
Does she know that she got engaged, or are we gonna get into Mike's story?
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, Odette gets to their apartment in Stony Creek, Ontario on Queenstone Road, and she walks in the door and she doesn't see Sheryl. She's not in the apartment. And so she's kind of looking around and she notices that, Cheryl's wallet is still there. And she also noticed that her contacts and her glasses are still there. So she's like, that doesn't make
Oh,
sense. Like if
yeah,
she's gonna
she's
go
not going
anywhere.
anywhere. Yeah, she can't. I'm assuming she drives. I mean, you can't go anywhere if you need
Yeah.
contacts. I personally can't.
Well, exactly. If you have glasses and you have contacts, you need one or the other.
One or the other, yeah.
Right. So that was obviously a little bit weird to Odette, but again, she's trying not to go to the worst case scenario here.
Mhm.
And eventually, Mike walks through the door of their apartment because, like I mentioned, they do live together.
Okay.
And he walks in and he lays down a set of keys. And Odette looks at the keys and she notices, wait, those are Cheryl's set of keys. Why does Mike have those keys? If Cheryl's not here, wouldn't Sheryl have her set of keys?
And Mike isn't
That
surprised by the fact that she's there.
that Odette's there?
Yeah.
No, because I would assume he knew that Odette was getting home from her trip
Oh,
in New
he
Brunswick.
expected his fiance to be picking her. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the plan was for Sheryl to pick Odette up and
And then her stay with them. Okay, yeah.
yeah, well, they all live together.
Okay.
So from here, Mike and Odette, they obviously start chatting. Odette hasn't been home in a couple days, so they're talking, and Odette like I mentioned, is expecting Sheryl to be home or be with Mike or just make an appearance at some point. So Odette asks Mike kind of what's going on, and Mike begins to tell Odette that they are engaged and they got engaged on New Year's Eve on TV. So obviously there was no like pre-discussion here with Odette that he was going to propose. Like it was like spur of the moment. Is
I
the
can
vibe.
just imagine just her. She's probably fabric. How do you say that word? Fabricated.
Fab
Fab.
fab fabric fabric
Fabricast.
fuck, I don't know. I don't
Fabric. But you
fucking
know what
know.
I'm saying. Fabric
Totally.
acid, and just like what the fuck just happened?
Like not even have words for what's going, like if somebody came to me and was like, oh yeah, I proposed to your daughter, we're engaged, and I was away and nothing was said, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And you don't even know where your daughter is. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things running around in your mind. So anyways, that's what he tells Odette. So from that conversation, Odette really felt like something was weird here just by that simple they got engaged situation. And I will explain a little bit more why in just a moment. So
Okay.
Odette then asks Mike, where is Sheryl? Because that's obviously the most important question right now, and they can get into the information about being engaged after this. Like, let's just find Sheryl.
Yeah,
So
where the
she
fuck
asks,
is my daughter?
yeah, so she asks Mike where Sheryl is. And what Mike says, it just gives her like knot in her stomach that she's probably got going on. It just makes it 10 times worse.
What
So
does
Mike
he tell her?
yeah, so Mike says to Odette he's actually not sure where Sheryl is because he hasn't even seen her since January 2nd.
And
He
it's
says
what day?
it's January 4th,
What the fuck?
and they just got engaged. He says, "Yeah, I dropped her off at Concord Hotel for work. She was gonna go dance. I guess she had a job there as a dancer, like a stripper."
Okay.
So he said he dropped her off on the evening of the 2nd, and he just hasn't seen her since.
And he's not concerned?
Yeah, no, not concerned. He just tells Odette that's the way it is. I don't know where she is.
Okay.
So imagine her surprise in that statement from him, and just like as a mom, you know something is just wrong. Like
And just even your spouse or your significant other or whatever, they're missing for 2 days. That's alarming.
well, yeah, you drop her off at work, you guys live together, you just got engaged, and you haven't seen her for a couple days?
Yeah, that's
What?
odd.
So there is many things wrong with this whole picture already. One, as far as Odette knew, her daughter was supposed to pick her up. They even had a phone call to confirm this, like I mentioned in the beginning. And Sheryl didn't show up, nor is she at the house the three of them share. That's number one. Number two, she spoke with her daughter on New Year's, and not once did Sheryl mention or allude to any kind of engagement or big news, anything about her life.
Oh.
So that
Oh.
was obviously weird. Number three, Odette remembers having prior conversations with Sheryl before this, where Sheryl said, no, she's not going to marry Mike unless he gets a freaking job.
Oh.
So
Let's
there was,
hear more about Mike.
yeah, and we'll get to him because he is a trophy. Number four, Sheryl was no longer a dancer. She wasn't a stripper anymore, and she hadn't even been one for at least a year. And in some reports too, I even heard like longer than a year she hasn't been dancing. So
Oh,
where did
weird.
that come from?
Yeah, that's random.
Like imagine all these red flags, like ding, 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 all these things in her head are just popping up. Like, and there's more. Odette knew that Sheryl worked at Tim Hortons right now. like at this
Okay.
time. She wasn't a dancer, like I said. Number 5, Mike, you haven't seen her since the 2nd, like we were just saying before. It's the
Yeah.
4th. You drop her off and like that's it. There's just no follow-up. Where's my fiance?
Yeah.
And then
What?
Odette's
My husband would be losing his shit.
right? He'd be like, the moment I was supposed to be done, my husband would be calling me and be like, "Where are you?"
Or even if I was a dancer during my shift, he'd be trying to contact me.
Oh fuck, I don't even think Dylan would leave,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really odd.
right? Again, I mentioned this before. Why the fuck does Mike have Cheryl's keys? Where is she? Again. And lastly, Odette, like I said before, sees Cheryl's wallet, glasses, and her contacts at the house, but no Cheryl.
And so again, he has her keys. So clearly she drives, she has a vehicle, but no vehicle
Yes.
of hers is
No,
around.
nothing.
Okay. So
Well,
super.
no, Mike has the keys. So where the hell, where could Cheryl went? No
But
keys,
the
no glasses.
keys to her vehicle, right?
Yeah, like her set of keys for the house and the car.
But no car.
Well, Mike obviously was driving it because he has the keys.
Oh, they share a car. Okay.
Yeah. So like there's so many reasons. Like all of these points are popping up in just one small conversation with Mike.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning.
What is
So
happening?
yeah. So it seems that it was not only her mom that had some concerns about where Cheryl was, but also other people that were close to her. Some friends were trying to call Cheryl between New Year's and Odette coming home on the 4th, asking to talk to Cheryl.
Yeah.
And every single time, Mike's like, "Oh, she's sleeping, she's working." She's like always indisposed at the time of the call. There's always
Oh.
a reason why she couldn't come to the phone. And not only were there obvious reasons to be concerned here, like I said, all those red flags were popping up from one conversation with Mike for Odette, but people around them were even more wary. They had such a volatile relationship, Mike and Cheryl, and the people around them knew. So that just adds into Odette's fear right now.
Mm.
So before we get into the information about what happens after this interaction at the house, let's talk a little bit about Mike here.
Yes,
So
let's.
yeah, so he was around 26 when this all happened. He was around 5'11", about 180 pounds. And yes, you can see in the video he's got the big luscious mullet going on.
So
And
literally the most average, typical dude of the time.
yeah, seems maybe he was kind of milking the fact that he hadn't reached his 30s yet. I'm not sure because he just kind of like, and there's no shame in that or anything. It's just the vibe that I'm getting is he was kind of floating around still in his 20s, like kind of did what he wanted to, I guess.
Okay.
Meaning, like he previously was married and he had 3 kids with that woman. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, there was a huge commitment there, but like at the same time, he couldn't get himself to hold down a job. So it's like he had all these really big adult responsibilities and commitments, but he couldn't hold down a job. And I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand. Like you need to be able to provide for your family. Does that like he didn't
Yeah,
seem to
he
have the
wasn't,
mentality yet
the
to
maturity level wasn't there.
yeah, that's exactly. That is just the vibe that I'm getting from this. It
Okay.
kind of and I will say just something to know about Mike is that he did have a history when it came to his anger getting out of control. I mentioned
Yeah.
before that he was previously married before he got into a relationship with Cheryl.
Yeah.
And during one of the blowouts, like we do hear from his ex-wife during one of the blowouts that he had with his ex-wife, he I, I don't he pulled a prank. I wouldn't really call this a prank. I'm not really sure another word to use for it or to explain it. you can think of something yourself. I'm not sure, but he got so mad. He was like, they were in a fight and everything, and he decides to leave the house. And he doesn't just like go cool off or anything. He goes to a gas station, and from here, he starts going off on the gas station attendant about how he just murdered his whole family.
What?
Hmm.
Just a family annihilator.
Yeah, he's just going off telling people. And so the attendant is like, dude, what the fuck? And
No
calls the
kidding.
police. So the police go do a welfare check, and everything's fine.
Okay. I'll say that men or boys in this case, their frontal lobe doesn't fully mature and or develop, I guess,
Mhm.
until they're about 25. So for guys to fly off the handle, for guys to fly off the handle in anger prior to the age of being 25 is pretty common because they don't have that frontal lobe
Yeah,
developed where you can make those decisions to, calm yourself down. You kind of are irrational and
yeah.
impulsive. So, yeah, but so that's on another
This is like
level.
above and beyond, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a little strange.
Because I do get what you're saying. Like they've got a lot of testosterone, and your
Yeah, they're more impulsive,
guys do take a
especially,
lot
yeah.
more to mature and not act on their impulsiveness. But this was, I've
That's an
never.
odd decision, like to just make. I don't know. Yep.
Well,
Okay.
and
I don't
I
know.
was thinking, like, I don't know what he was trying to accomplish here. I don't know if he was trying to see how the idea of that felt by
Oh,
saying
yeah.
it, or if he wanted to just see how it would play out if he had told somebody that he did that.
Yeah, how people would react.
Right. But
Mm.
so there was charges that were filed, but they were
For
all dropped. Like, so it didn't really go anywhere.
which, yeah, that usually happens in these cases. I mean, that's why we have a
Yeah.
podcast.
Well, exactly. So yeah, I mean, there was charges, they were all dropped, so they moved on from that. His ex-wife also mentions another time when he got so angry, he beat her so badly, he broke both of her cheekbones.
Oh my God.
So he's got some really
What?
big pent-up anger going on.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't like I don't really know how he was able to just walk around after, like, even if I don't know how the law works. So even if she didn't press charges and go through with them, like, wouldn't the law kind of intervene at that point and be like, well, regardless, he broke your cheekbones. We have to.
Sometimes it makes me wonder if these guys who do stuff like this, if it gives them like if it makes them feel like their dick is bigger because they can, I've broken a girl's cheekbone before, or a woman's cheekbone before, like,
I
because
would say
that's
people like that, I would almost say I could totally see that because they're picking a
hard to
fight with
do.
people smaller than them.
But it's also hard to break. So like it's hard to break your cheekbone. So I just like I don't know. I wonder if some of them think it makes them feel like a big tough guy because they've been able
Yeah.
to do that. I don't know. It's so gross.
I really wouldn't be. They kind of get off on it. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
some men do get off on something like that.
That's gross.
So that's Mike. Let's talk about Michael, or let's talk about Mike and Cheryl as a couple.
Okay. How did they meet? He's really disgracing the mullet.
He really is. He really is. And it was a luscious mullet too.
It was a nice mullet. Yeah, I saw
It
it.
really was, like curly and
Curly.
like curly, so it's like there's
Quintessential.
there's lots of volume going on in there.
It was a good mullet. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So, yes, Mike and Cheryl. From what's been reported, their relationship wasn't much better. than the one that he had previously with his ex-wife. Like I mentioned, people around them had a lot more concern for when they couldn't get a hold of Sheryl in that small period of time, because they knew what kind of relationship they had, and that was outside of closed doors. So
Oh, so you
people
can
had
only imagine what was happening behind closed
yeah,
doors.
so like a day you don't hear from somebody who's in an abusive relationship, and you know that, your mind goes to much darker places much faster, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So people around Sheryl, including coworkers, noticed that Mike also had a very possessive and scary side to him. I mentioned that Sheryl had worked at Tim Hortons, and
Mhm.
she was like a baker. She'd decorate um, the donuts and everything like that.
Oh,
So
fun.
yeah, so she worked
You
there,
have to
and
be up so early.
oh yeah, the shifts were really early. But Mike coworkers had said that Mike would come in when she was working, and he would hang out there all day. All day,
Fucking hate that. Fucking hate that.
right? Hmm. And
I
I will say there was mention to the area of the Tim Hortons that she worked in was like Cracktown.
oh
So it was a really rough town, but still all day long, and you're just waiting around there, knowing what you know about how the relationship was, that is so controlling.
that's mm-mm.
Even if she's working in a rough part of town, she's still a grown woman. Like she had decided that's, where she was going to work, that's where she can get a job. She doesn't need her boyfriend hanging around all fucking day. If something's
That's
going on, she'll
but
call you.
I mean, and then on the other side of that, it's almost what does he not have anything else to do?
Right. Where's he can't keep a job. Where, like, go find a job, go do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But instead, he's made it his full-time
He's
job to kind of just hang
just
out there all day.
stalk her, basically.
And he would take it even further, because he would start listening to conversations that Sheryl would have with her coworkers and customers and whoever in there. And if those conversations got a little bit too long for him, he would like so then she knew it was time to wrap that conversation up. So
Are
he'd like clear
you
his throat.
serious? Oh,
That's
so he would do a whole
uh
wow.
yeah. And it was like a cue, like it had happened enough times where she knew, okay, this conversation has to end.
What?
It makes me
That's
so sad
insane.
to think about women who are, and even men, like in an abusive relationship, have to like live day by day. Like,
Well, and it's gonna harm her career at some point.
oh,
Do you know what I mean?
definitely. Her coworkers are the ones that are noticing this. It's embarrassing, it's uncomfortable, it's not professional, it's demeaning,
And
it's
there's going to be customers that are going to say, I don't want to go to this Timmy's anymore because there's this weird fucking guy with this luscious mullet sitting
yeah,
here
yes.
watching this.
Like,
Yeah.
he's obviously watching. He's close enough to be able to do that and her hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people close to Cheryl, they reported more than one occasion that they had seen bruising on her. And at one point there was a witness in their apartment complex in the parking garage area.
Yeah.
He had The neighbor had seen an argument between Cheryl and Mike, and Mike raised his arm to Cheryl and put his hand around her neck. And he said, if you, like, the neighbor said that he heard him say, if you keep fucking around with me, something's going to happen to you.
Gross.
Could you imagine hearing
That,
somebody, like a man, say that to somebody, like a woman? Like, I don't even know what
what
I
would
would
you
do.
do though? Yeah, I don't know what
Because
I
it's
would
hard
do
to
either.
interfere. Like, it's almost very dangerous for the person being abused to interfere in a situation like that. Like, you don't want them to get punished for that later because there was
No,
this
and
thing,
I know somebody who was abused by their partner in Canada, and they went to the law, and they basically told her, don't report him because he won't get put away, and if he does, it won't be for very long, and it's just going to piss him off more, and he'll just come attack you harder, basically. Like, she was
how fucked up is
advised.
that?
Yeah, she was advised by our legal system to not say anything because it'll just piss him off more.
It's so disgusting. How terrifying.
I know, it's messed up.
And I could imagine, very lonely.
Yeah.
But it seems she became more and more concerned, or people around Cheryl mentioned, like the people really close to her mentioned that she did become more and more concerned that something might actually happen to her. She had told some friends that if something did happen to her, it was Mike that they needed to talk to, that he would be the
I
one.
I can't believe okay, I don't understand because I've heard that so many times, and people have been in, you've heard that before, where it's like, oh, if something happens to me, so and so did it. Why are we letting these people in our lives?
Oh my God. It's so scary. I'm happy that some people will say that to the people close to them, because like you said, sometimes they can't go report it because it'll just make it worse.
Yeah,
But
but
they
the
know in their
fact,
heart something could happen.
yeah.
So now we're gonna go a little bit back to the apartment here after Odette had that conversation with Mike. Now that we've got some backstory about who they were. So she, like I said, after the conversation with Mike, she was sick to her stomach. I can imagine. She is left to think about all those points that I mentioned could be like what wasn't adding up for her in just one small conversation. Knowing what she does about Mike and Cheryl and their history together and separately, she's thinking, you know what, maybe there's a chance that Cheryl will come home. Maybe something happened and she's cooling off. Like who knows? Anything but what is happening.
Yeah.
So Odette too, she's been traveling that day. She has to work really early in the morning. So there's no like downtime between getting home from vacation and getting back to everyday life. So and they share an apartment. So if Cheryl comes home, Odette will hear. It's not like she's waiting by the phone or anything. So Odette goes into her room and she ends up passing out because she's fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
So Odette passes out, and in the morning she gets up and she gets ready for work, but she still feels in her gut that something is not right. Like she did not come home last night. So she goes right to work and she talks to her boss and she's like, I gotta go. You need to find a replacement. I can't be here. After a bit, a replacement comes and she leaves and she goes right to the police station to begin the process of reporting her daughter as a missing person. When she gets to the police station and she speaks with them, she's told that she's got to go home and she can't touch anything, and that officers will be by and go through the process. I guess at the station she went to, they didn't have everything they needed on hand to do a missing persons report, but they also wanted to like go to her home and talk to her. So Odette does that. She goes home and she doesn't touch anything and she waits for officers to arrive. When she gets home, she notices that some things are gone. Mike's things
What?
are gone. So
Since she's in, okay, you're gonna tell me, but since the time that her daughter was supposed to pick her up, she went there, she went to the cops, she comes back again, and there's stuff missing.
Yeah, in the time that she left the house in the morning and went to the police station.
Suspicious.
Very suspicious. Like, why are your things gone? Why are you fucking panicking?
Yeah.
And from here, Mike's behavior to this day is incredibly suspicious. It was almost like he was like waiting for her to leave, so he had a window of opportunity to start fucking hauling shit out. So the police get there and they talk to Odette and they start the missing persons process, and the police would spend the next 10 days combing through this apartment.
10 days for an apartment.
So like I would say props to these police officers who took this serious right away.
Yeah. Especially with an adult.
Yeah. So we're going to go through what the police found and what was kind of noted when they looked through the apartment. So like I mentioned previous, Cheryl's wallet, contacts, and glasses were left at her house. They noted that there was a stain on the wall, but we unfortunately don't know what that stain was from because they couldn't get enough from it to really confirm what it was from.
Weird.
The bed sheets were stripped of its sheets. So it's just
the bed sheets were stripped.
The bed was stripped of its sheets. Yeah, the bed was stripped of its sheets.
But you said the bed sheets were stripped of its sheets.
Oh, did I?
You gotta keep that in.
I'm like, what are you laughing about? That's how you fucking say it.
The bed sheets were stripped.
Okay. Phew. So above their bed, they had like a frame. I don't know if it was like a big picture frame or whatever, but it was supposed to have glass in it, and it was missing. And they seen on the balcony that there was a box that had glass in it. There was damaged curtains, and this is specifically weird. When she left, there was curtains hanging, and they were like properly screwed into the wall. When she came back, the rod was up, but like it wasn't screwed in. It was just nailed into the wall.
What?
So it was like improvisingly put back together. Like, I don't know. During their like canvas of the apartment thing, they spoke to a lot of neighbors. He had recalled seeing Mike at one point after New Year's carrying out 2 large garbage bags. And I mean, that would be normal if somebody close to him wasn't missing.
Yeah. And she looked pretty tiny.
Yeah.
As if she could fit into a garbage bag or 2.
So like any investigation, the police need to speak with the last person or people that seen them. To the Concord Hotel they go. Because remember, that's where he said that he dropped her off. So in theory, that would be the last place she was. Going to that hotel just gives them even more questions and concerns than they showed up with. The manager there said that no, she didn't work there. And actually, he had never even seen or heard about this woman before.
Shocker.
And he'd worked there for decades. So the police attempt to make an appointment to have Mike come in because, again, he was the, I guess, second to last person that would have seen Sheryl. So they make an appointment with Mike to come in to the station to talk to them, hoping to try to get some more information on where to go from here because they really don't have any. From what they know at this point, Mike told Odette he dropped her off for a dancing job in the alley of the Concord Hotel around 7 p.m. He then went to his ex-wife's house to pick up his kids and then drove them to his mom's house and asked her to watch them for him.
Nice.
I'm not sure when this was said, but at one point he had alluded to the plan being that they had arranged for her ex-husband to pick her up after her shift, but that was like quickly proven to be wrong. Like, and also just so weird for him to say.
Yeah.
Like he's extremely possessive. So even the idea of dropping her off to go for a stripping job is absurd. And also that her ex-husband was going to pick her up. Like he doesn't even let her talk to customers for too long without getting pissed off. So that whole thing was just so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, he sits in Tim Hortons and watches her for an entire shift.
The ex-husband even came to the police station to talk to the police and was like, you need to give me a polygraph. They were able to rule him out that he was not involved in any of this. Again, the police want to talk to Mike, but unfortunately, they would not get the chance to speak with him.
What?
Only 2 days after this appointment that was set, Mike was found in the back of Cheryl's vehicle, parked in a storage garage, almost dead from carbon monoxide. Because
he tried to kill himself.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And like divine intervention, this is like such a weird twist. Yeah, like divine intervention, an off-duty police officer who was in the area earlier that day on the clock. He had seen Cheryl's vehicle, like not knowing it was hers, obviously, but he had seen it and he just happened to run the plates. And when Mike didn't show up for his appointment and there was chit chat about where the hell this guy was, he remembered the plate. And so he was like, wait a second. So he went to the storage garage and he found Mike there.
Oh my God.
Like complete divine intervention. Like, no, the only person who may know where Sheryl is, you cannot just fucking die.
Nope, it's not your time, motherfucker.
Exactly. They found him just in time.
Okay.
But unfortunately, Mike hasn't spent more than like 30 minutes with the police since Sheryl went missing to this day.
Why?
They tried to keep some of his things from when this whole incident happened with Mike in the parking garage or in the storage garage, just so they could like get Mike to come in and try to get some face to face with him. But every single time Mike would just send his lawyer to get his stuff. And the police tried to be like, no, you can't do that. Mike has to sign for this. That still didn't work.
What the hell?
To this day, we are kind of left with many speculations and theories out there. Odette, back in like 2016, I believe it was 2016, it was on another podcaster, I believe it's called Somebody Knows Something. They spoke to Odette. This podcast is all the credit to them. They did such an amazing deep dive and like ran trail after trail talking to people trying to get some information about what maybe could have happened. But there's really not a lot.
And Mike is still alive?
I tried to confirm that. There's really not a big internet trail of Mike. That's
insane. She just disappeared off the face of the earth. What a nightmare.
And nobody's been able to really speak with Mike. Like he's just been like, no, you have to talk to my lawyers. Because they don't have anything on him. They just have circumstance, like they don't have anything to be like, let's get this guy in here and hopefully he cracks. Like he immediately was like, lawyer.
How? Because obviously something horrible happened to her.
And I mean, there's a lot of speculation and theories. I mean, Sheryl, obviously, she was a stripper and she did have a past, but I don't think I didn't feel the need to go into that part of her life too much because it's not like she was picked up for being a sex worker. She worked at Tim Hortons and this was her fiance.
He did it.
That's my opinion too.
Yeah, I'm going to have to listen to that one podcast you were talking about and I'm going to have to search. We're going to have to redo this case, I think, with more information.
One day I think we should. And I did listen to that podcast, but even then, I didn't find there's some like rabbit holes that you can go down.
We should collaborate on this one in the new year and like do another.
Let's do that.
Yeah, do some more information.
We can bounce off theories with each other too.
Yeah, and let's dig into Mike's past. Let's dig into her past. Let's do I think a big old deep dive on this one because I really very am interested in this. Also, what her mom's name was? What was her mom's name?
Okay? Odette.
Odette. That's such a badass name.
Right?
I like that name.
Yeah. And that's it for this week.
Remember, it's a dark world out there. See you creatures next week.